Dear students, welcome to Rama's EduZone, your favorite destination for learning English. And today, we're going to study a chapter from class 11th. This is from your syllabus book Hornbill, prescribed by CBSE, and the name of the chapter is The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. When you look at the title, you get to know that here the life, deeds, and character of a lady are going to be described. Khushwant Singh, the famous Indian author, has described his own grandmother so beautifully through his words that while we read, we feel that his grandmother has come in front of us. The words of the author presents a picture of his grandmother when we read this chapter. Khushwant Singh. Khushwant Singh is an Indian writer. He's very popular. And look at his education background. He got his education, school education from the modern school in New Delhi, one of the famous school we have in Delhi. And then thereafter he did his graduation from St. Stephen's, very popular college in Delhi University. And he got to Government College Lahore and LLB he did from King's College London. So this is his educational background, and on your screen you can watch a picture given for you. This is the picture of the writer Khushwant Singh. As I told you, he is a very famous writer. He has been conferred with some honors and awards like Rockefeller Grant 1966, Padma Bhushan Award, Honest Man of the Year, Sulabh International. That award he received in the year 2000, and then Punjab Ratna Award, the Government of Punjab in 2006, and Padma Vibhushan from Government of India in 2007. Apart from these awards and honors, he is also the recipient of some other awards like Sahitya Academy Fellowship by Sahitya Academy of India in the year 2010, Lifetime Achievement Award by Tata Literature Life, the Mumbai Lifest in 2013, and in the year 2012, All India Minorities Forum Annual Fellowship Award by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister, then Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, and in the year 2014 he received Fellow of King's College London in January 2004. He has he has authored some famous books like Train to Pakistan, The Mark of Vishnu and Other Stories, A History of the Sikhs, Ranjit Singh, and We Indians. Now, let's start the chapter, The Portrait of a Lady. So, what is the story behind this? The Portrait of a Lady is the story of author's grandmother. He, in this chapter, has explained his beautiful relationship with his own grandmother. Over the years, that relationship passed through different phases, but it was very beautiful, well connected, and full of emotion. He pens down her daily activities and how she evolved as a character as time passed by. He also explains her appearance, which helps create an image in the reader's mind. And that is why, since the words of the writer here are full in capacity of conveying the picture, presenting the picture in front of all as writer, so that's why the title is The Portrait of a Lady. The Portrait of a Lady has a theme of innocence, friendship, love, connection, kindness, selflessness, respect, and acceptance. Narrated in the first person, the story is a memory piece. Now, let me tell you what is a memory piece. A memory piece is a piece in literature where somebody describes a story, a life, based on the memorable moments in his or her own life. Before beginning, there are some word meanings which are important to be noted, like mental peace. Mantel base is a structure of wood, marble, or stone above and around a fireplace. The thought was almost revolting, means it was very, very hard for the author to believe. Revolting means unpleasant, absurd means illogical, undignified means disrespectful, fables means fictitious, means imagination, stories with a moral teaching, and prophets means religious preachers or saints. Here is a description of author's grandmother, and some physical features have been described here. Since the chapter The Portrait of a Lady is the story of the author and his grandmother, the grandmother was an old woman with a wrinkled face. The author had always seen her like this for the past 20 years. She appeared to be so old that they could not imagine her being young and pretty. Someone who had a husband. She was short, fat, and slightly bent. She was very, very old, terribly old. Then, looking at his grandmother, the author thought that she has crossed the limit of being old, that she cannot grow more older now. The author had seen his grandfather's portrait, an old man with a turban and a long white beard covering his chest. To the author, his grandfather did not seem like a man who could have a wife and children. His grand, but someone who could have lots and lots of grandchildren. His grandmother used to move around the house in spotless white sari, with her one hand resting on her waist and her other hand counting the beads of her rosary. The religious aspect of author's grandmother is also being described here. The author has described that his grandmother was very, very religious. She used to recite a lot of prayers, and most of the time she was busy telling the beads of rosary. And in this way, he has given a picture of his grandmother. First, the physical appearance. She was very, very old. She was bent, fat, and she was full of wrinkles. Her face was full of crisscross of wrinkles. And whenever somebody told that once she had been young and pretty, the author could not believe it. Because for last 20 years he had only seen her terribly old. So this is something, and he has described the physical appearance means she was old, bent, fat, full of wrinkles, and she is kind of giving an idea that she's grown so old that she was now not able to grow more old. Believe it, the thought that the grandmother was once young and pretty, it was almost revolting, means the author could not believe it. And sometimes the grandmother herself used to tell the grandchildren that she used to play as a child. Author could not believe. He felt that no, grandmother is such a dignified person. She is old person. She is an old woman. She cannot play a game like a child. So he did not believe, because all these things were hard for him to be believed. Now it is important to note down certain meanings like crisscross, a pattern of intersecting straight lines means wrinkles, hobbled, walked in an awkward way, slow, spotless white. The grandmother used to wear clean, white colored dresses, stoop, bend one's body forward, आगे की तरफ झुकना, stoop, rosary, a string of beads for keeping count of number of chants made of a religious prayer. मोतियों की माला जिसके ज़रिए आप पूजा पाठ करते हैं और आपने कितना जाप कर लिया है इसका ध्यान आप रख पाते हैं. Locks, locks means hair. Puckered, a face contract with into wrinkles. Inaudible, unable to be heard. Serenity, the state of being peaceful and calm. An expanse of pure white serenity means it refers to the calm, relaxed, and peaceful character of the author's grandmother. Contentment, a mental state of happiness and satisfaction. epitome of serenity and tranquility. Serenity means peacefulness, and tranquility means peacefulness. The epitome means symbol. The grandmother was a symbol of serenity and tranquility. She was a living legend showing peacefulness. She had silver colored hair which was not neatly combed and was disorganized. She was constantly chanting prayers. He compares her to the winter landscape in the mountains, which has a peaceful and calm feel. She was a live example of a pure white peace emitting entity. The daily routine in the village. Initially, we found that the author and the grandmother were living in the village. The author's parents were gone to had gone to a city, and since they were trying to settle over there, grandmother and the grandson were living in the village. In the initial days, the author and his grandmother had a good relationship. She used to wake him up and get him ready to the school. She used to pack the things required by him for the day and walked him to the school every day. She used to visit the temple that was attached to the school. She had a routine of reading the scriptures. The author, along with other children, sat on veranda singing alphabets and morning prayers. They both used to come back home together with stray dogs roaming around them as his grandmother would carry the stale chapatis to feed them. So, in the village, we find that author's grandmother used to wake him up every morning. She would recite her morning prayers while she bathed and dressed him up. She would make his things ready like a wooden slate, a tiny earthen ink pot, and a red pen. He would eat a thick stale chapati with butter and sugar spread on it. They both used to walk to school, and his grandmother carried stale chapatis with her to feed the village dogs. Soon, the parents of the author who went to the city to settle in and called them. As they reached the city, there came a turning point in the lives of the author and the grandmother. The relationship with his grandmother took a turn. Though they shared the same room, their bond grew apart. He started going to an English medium school. She no longer accompanied him to his school, and there were no longer stray dogs who roamed around them while walking back home. She, however, used to ask him about his day and what he had learned. She did not understand anything, as everything was in another language which she could not understand. She did not approve of the new syllabus being taught in the city school, and she wanted the school to teach about God and scriptures, and they saw less of each other. His parents got settled in the city. They called them up. They shared the same room, but now she no longer would give him company to his school because the author used to go by bus. He started going to an English medium school in a motor bus. The scientific terminology and English words made her unhappy because the grandmother was not aware about science and English. She was unhappy that the school was not teaching about God and religious scriptures. Once the author came back from school and told her that he had been given music lessons, she became very unhappy because, according to her, music was indecent and it was an art for the beggars and harlots. She did not like that he learned music, so she stopped talking to him. Now, word meanings: snapped, break suddenly and completely. Seclusion, the state of being private and away from the people. Accepted her seclusion with resignation. It means that the grandmother accepted a lonely life as she accepted the separation from her grandson without objection. Spinning wheel, a household machine with a wheel attached to it for spinning the yarn. Word meanings: a veritable bedlam of chirpings refers to the noise and confusion caused by the chirpings of the sparrows. Veritable, used to describe something which is very interesting and unusual. Bedlam means confusion. Chirpings, the noise of from small birds. Perched, alight or rest on something. Shoot, make a person or animal go away by shouting or saying shoo. There was a common link, although they were not in talking terms, and they were not. They were talking very less to each other. The common link between them was their room. But when, as the days passed, the writer grew older, and soon he started going to the university. When he started going to the university, he was given his own room, and this made their relationship become sour, unpleasant. Now the grandmother stopped talking to everyone and spent her whole day sitting at her spinning wheel, reciting prayers and moving beads of the rosary with one hand. However, she loved feeding the sparrows in the veranda at dawn. Breaking bread into pieces and feeding it to the birds was her daily routine. The birds would sit on her legs, her head, some even on her shoulder. So this was the routine when she was given a separate room. When the author started going to the university and he got a separate room of his own, the common link, the room which they shared, was snapped from them. The grandmother accepted her seclusion, her separation with resignation, and the things shattered. And this thing shattered his grandmother. She stopped talking to anyone. She was unhappy. On the when the common link, when the room were uh, taken away from them. What happens when, after the university, the author decided to go abroad for further studies? She came to the railway station to leave him off. The author was thinking that the grandmother might not be happy on her decision, on his decision, because he was going away for 5 years, and grandmother was terribly old, and in her age, it was very uncertain for a person to tell about what is going to happen after 5 years. She might not be happy because the author was going for 5 years, and she might be feeling that she might die anytime and she might not be able to meet him again after 5 years. The author was very uh, panic about this, that how the grandmother was going to react. But she came to railway station. She uh, show show she showed a very strong character by not saying anything, but not expressing her displeasure or anything. She was not sentimental. Continuously she recited her prayers. Her mind was completely lost in the prayers, and she kissed him on the forehead. After 5 years, the home. She was there. She received him at the railway station. She came to pick him at the station. She was still the same as she had been the 5 years ago. She clasped him within her arms and did not say a word. She still used to feed her sparrows. In the evening, she missed her prayer for the very first time. She did not recite her prayer, but instead she collected the women of the neighborhood. She got a drum and started singing. The next morning, she was ill. She was over enthusiastic on the arrival of her grandson after 5 years. For the first time in her life, she did not pray. To express her happiness, to celebrate the moment, to celebrate the homecoming of her grandson, she collected the women from the neighborhood, and she took an old drum and started singing the songs of the homecoming of the warriors. Everybody was thinking that the grandmother is old and she might not be feeling well after so much of thumping the drum and singing the songs. So they started convincing that it is more now, you should stop, but she did not stop. And due to exertion, she got a mild fever. She got to know that her end was near. She did not waste her time and started telling beads of rosary. Within no time, she left for heavenly abode. She died. After her death, the family mourned her death. They were feeling very bad. The author was feeling very bad. They put the grandmother off the bed and took the body to the ground, covered with a red shroud, and they, all of them, went out of the room to arrange for her cremation. Thousands of sparrows sat silently near her. They were not chirping, they were sad. The lady who used to feed them the bread was no more, and the birds The small birds realized that there was something unusual. The lady who used to feed them was not making any movement, not feeding them, so they also not chirping. They were paying a homage, a tribute to the dead grandmother. The author's mother was feeling sorry for the birds. She went to the kitchen. She came back with bread in her hands. She offered the breadcrumbs in the same way, like the grandmother used to do to the sparrows, but they did not take any notice of the breadcrumbs. They, without chirping, flew away. Later, as the family carried the dead body, they did not look at the breadcrumbs given by author's mother. So this is all from this chapter, and I hope you understood this chapter. Elevate yourself with Rama's Eduzone. Thank you for watching.